The 10 Darkest Secrets of the Vatican. Number 10. The Murders in the Swiss Guard. On the night of May 4, 1998, the walls of the Vatican, normally a symbol of peace and sanctity, became the scene of a bloody crime. The newly appointed commander of the Swiss Guard, Alois Estermann, and his wife, Gladys Meza Romero, were found shot to death in their apartment. Alongside them lay the lifeless body of a 23-year-old Vice Corporal, Cédric Tournay, with his service pistol by his side. Within hours, the Vatican announced its official conclusion. Tournay, allegedly resentful for being denied a Medal of Honor, murdered Estermann and his wife before taking his own life. However, this murder-suicide explanation was too quick and simple for many, giving rise to a wave of dark theories. Tournay's mother insisted her son was innocent and that a posthumous letter had been manipulated. Whispers circulated about Estermann's possible links to the Stasi, the East German secret police, or about an alleged homosexual affair gone wrong. Others pointed to an internal power struggle between conservative and liberal factions within the Vatican. Despite calls to reopen the case, the Vatican has maintained its official version, letting the doubts and secrets about what really happened that night fester behind the sacred walls. Number 9. The Disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. On June 22, 1983, Emanuela Orlandi, the 15-year-old daughter of a Vatican employee, vanished without a trace after her flute lesson in Rome. What began as a missing person case quickly transformed into one of Italy's most enduring and sinister mysteries, with threads leading directly into the heart of the Holy See. Over the decades, Emanuela's disappearance has been linked to theories involving the Mafia, international secret services, and a blackmail attempt to free Mehmet Ali Agca, the man who tried to assassinate Pope John Paul II. The darkest and most persistent theory, however, was put forth by the Vatican's chief exorcist, Father Gabriele Amorth. He claimed that Emanuela was kidnapped to be used in sex parties organized by high-ranking clerics within the Vatican and was ultimately murdered to cover up the scandal. Recent investigations have reopened the case, examining tombs within the Vatican and pressuring Holy See officials who have maintained a frustrating silence for 40 years. The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi remains an open wound, a constant reminder that within the Vatican's walls, some secrets are protected at any cost, even that of an innocent life. Number 8. The Ambrosiano Bank and the Corpse of God's Banker. In the 1980s, the Vatican Bank, officially known as the Institute for the Works of Religion, IOR, became embroiled in one of the largest financial scandals in Italian history. The IOR was the main shareholder of Banco Ambrosiano, a powerful private Italian bank run by Roberto Calvi. Through a complex network of shell companies and offshore accounts, Calvi laundered hundreds of millions of dollars, much of it to political causes and mafia figures, with the apparent complicity and protection of the Vatican. The scandal reached a macabre boiling point in June 1982, when Banco Ambrosiano collapsed with a debt of over $1 billion. Days later, Roberto Calvi, nicknamed God's Banker, was found hanging from Blackfriars Bridge in London, his pockets stuffed with bricks and cash. Although initially ruled a suicide, later evidence proved it was a murder orchestrated by the Mafia, to whom Calvi had lost a fortune. The Vatican denied any legal responsibility, but eventually paid hundreds of millions of dollars to creditors as a goodwill gesture, never admitting the full extent of its involvement in this dark nexus of finance, power, and crime. Number 7. The Conspiracy Against the Knights Templar. In the early 14th century, the Knights Templar were the wealthiest, most powerful, and most influential Christian military order in Europe. However, their power and wealth attracted the envy and greed of King Philip IV of France, who was deeply in debt to the order. In a coordinated and secret operation, on Friday, October 13, 1307, the king ordered the mass arrest of all Templars in France, accusing them of heresy, idolatry, and sodomy, charges fabricated to justify his actions. The darkest secret here lies in the role of Pope Clement V. Pressured and intimidated by King Philip, the Pope agreed to initiate a papal trial against the Templars. Under extreme torture, many knights confessed to the false crimes. despite a document discovered in 2001 known as the Chinon Parchment, revealing that Pope Clement V had actually secretly absolved the Templar leaders of the charges of heresy. He publicly caved to the pressure. In 1312, he dissolved the order and allowed its wealth to be confiscated. The Pope sacrificed the Church's faithful knights to appease a powerful monarch, an act of political betrayal that sealed the fate of the Templars and created a dark legend that endures to this day. Number 6. The Third Secret of Fatima. In 1917, 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, claimed to have received a series of prophecies from the Virgin Mary. The first 2 secrets, which spoke of the end of World War I, the rise of Russia, and a vision of hell, were revealed in 1941. However, the third secret was transcribed by one of the seers, Lucia dos Santos, and sent to the Vatican in 1957, with instructions not to be revealed until 1960. Yet 1960 came and went, and the Vatican remained silent, fueling decades of feverish speculation. Finally, in the year 2000, Pope John Paul II revealed the content of the third secret. It described a vision of a bishop dressed in white being shot and killed in a ruined city, which the Vatican interpreted as a premonition of the assassination attempt against the Pope himself in 1981. However, many Fatima devotees and experts believe the Vatican did not release the full text. They maintain that the unrevealed part is far more apocalyptic and damning for the Church itself, speaking of a great apostasy that would begin at the very top of the hierarchy. This alleged cover-up has created a rift of mistrust, suggesting the Vatican is hiding a divine truth too terrible to be told. Number 5. The Vatican Secret Archives. With over 53 miles, 85 kilometers of shelving, the Vatican Apostolic Archives, often misnamed the Secret Archives, contain some of the most important documents in human history. While they are not secret in the sense that qualified scholars can access them, the extremely slow process of declassifying documents and the vast amount of uncatalogued material fuel suspicion that they hide uncomfortable truths. They are said to contain the complete, uncensored history of the Church, including its most shameful and compromising moments. Speculation abounds that the archives could hold proof of Jesus' descendants, compromising communications from popes throughout history, or detailed information about the Vatican's role during crucial events like World War II. Each time a pope opens a new section of the archives, such as the recent opening of documents from the pontificate of Pius XII, historians dive in, searching for answers to thorny questions. The archives represent the ultimate institutional secret, the power to control the historical narrative by deciding which parts of the truth can see the light of day and which must remain in darkness. Number 4. The Pact with Fascism. In 1929, the Vatican, under Pope Pius XI, signed the Lateran Pacts with the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. This treaty was a crucial moment that resolved the Roman question, which had left popes as prisoners in the Vatican for nearly 60 years. In exchange for recognizing the legitimacy of Mussolini's fascist regime, the Catholic Church received a massive financial settlement and, most importantly, the recognition of Vatican City as a sovereign and independent state. This pact is one of the darkest secrets because it represents a profound moral compromise. By allying with Mussolini, the Church granted powerful international and divine legitimacy to a brutal and totalitarian regime at a time when fascism was beginning its threatening rise in Europe. While the Vatican ensured its own physical and political survival, it did so by shaking hands with a tyrant. This political pragmatism over moral principles set a disturbing precedent for the Vatican's relations with other totalitarian regimes, including Nazi Germany, a stain that remains the subject of intense historical debate. Number 3. The rat lines and the escape of Nazi criminals. After World War II, as the world sought justice for the horrors of the Holocaust, a network of escape routes known as rat lines allowed thousands of Nazi war criminals, including some of the most notorious like Adolf Eichmann and Josef Mengele, to escape Europe to South America. The most shocking secret is that these escape routes were organized and facilitated by high-ranking clerics within the Vatican itself. Priests and bishops, often motivated by a misguided anti-communism or the belief that they were helping Catholic refugees, used the Church's network of monasteries and safe houses to hide these criminals and provide them with false identity documents and passage to freedom. Although the Vatican has maintained that these actions were not official policy, the evidence of involvement by significant figures within the Holy See is overwhelming. This act of shielding the architects of genocide from justice is one of the deepest moral betrayals of the 20th century, a secret that taints the institution with complicity in one of history's greatest crimes. Number 2. The silence of Pius XII during the Holocaust. The pontificate of Pope Pius XII coincided with World War II and the Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime. Despite receiving detailed and credible reports about the ongoing genocide, Pius XII chose to maintain a policy of public silence. He never issued an explicit and direct condemnation of the Nazi atrocities or their anti-Semitic ideology. His critics accuse him of a catastrophic moral failure, arguing that a public condemnation from the Pope could have saved countless lives or, at the very least, undermined the moral authority of the Nazis. The Pope's defenders argue that his silence was a calculated diplomatic strategy, fearing that a public condemnation would have provoked an even more brutal Nazi reprisal against Catholics and Jews hidden in church institutions. They maintain that he worked tirelessly behind the scenes to save as many Jews as possible. However, for millions, this silence is the most painful secret. The possibility that the world's most powerful moral leader watched history's greatest crime unfold and chose not to speak out clearly. The recent opening of his archives continues to fuel this debate, centered on the question of whether the Pope was a cautious saint or a silent accomplice. Number 1. The systematic cover-up of clerical abuse. The Vatican's darkest, most devastating, and systemic secret is, without a doubt, the deliberate and global cover-up of decades of sexual abuse perpetrated by Catholic priests. For generations, when allegations of abuse arose, the unofficial policy of the ecclesiastical hierarchy, from local bishops to the highest offices of the Roman Curia, was not to protect the victims, but to protect the institution. Accused priests were simply moved from one parish to another, allowing them to access new victims and continue their crimes in secret. This cover-up was codified in internal documents that instructed bishops to handle these grave delicts under the strictest pontifical secrecy, prioritizing the Church's reputation over the safety of those affected and justice for the survivors. This is not a matter of a few bad apples, but of a system designed to conceal the truth, silence the victims, and obstruct civil justice. This scandal has triggered an unprecedented crisis of faith, has cost the Church billions in legal settlements, and has shattered the Vatican's moral authority in a way that no other secret in its long and complex history ever has. It is the ultimate betrayal of the most vulnerable and the deepest stain on the soul of the modern Catholic Church.
Thank you for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Give it a like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with your friends and family.